Hello, welcome to China Open Mic Hangout. I am Andy Liu. Today we'll talk about being gay in China with two guests based in Beijing, China. We have Mr. Dai Hongwei, who is a sales manager in hospitality in Beijing. Welcome, Dai Hongwei. Happy to have you here.
Hello everybody.
And then we have Mr. Jack Smith. He is originally from Britain, but he has been living in China for quite a long time, as you can see in the, represented, by the national flag. Jack was actually just hired as LGBT editor for the Time Out magazine in Beijing. So congratulations, Jack, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Andy. Hello, Hongwei. Hello, everybody.
So before actually we start our conversation today, I want us to take a look at what happened recently here in the United States first. Last week on June 26th, the Supreme Court of the United States struck down the Defense of Marriage Act, or DOMA, which prevented legally married same-sex couples from receiving federal benefits. This milestone event of civil rights, actually a milestone civil rights advancement, actually doesn't stop at the U.S. borders, because in countries like China, people are encouraged to step up for their legal rights as well. So I'm gonna share with you this CNN video, which just came out on June 30th, about gay people stepping up for their civil rights in China in light of the DOMA strike being struck down. So I'm gonna share it now, and so bear with me. Let's go and share this. Okay.
In rural China, where homosexuality is still largely...
The President, Barack Obama, is voicing his support for same-sex couples hoping to marry. He says all states in the US should recognize same-sex marriages, and the debate over gay marriage doesn't end at the US border. Stephen Jiang has more from rural China.
These two young men blend in with a crowd at the local village fair, but their story stands out. Wu Yebing and An Wei are an openly gay couple living in rural China, where homosexuality is still largely taboo.
My family sought medical treatment for me, hired a shaman to exorcise me. I had to comply, but at the same time, I found information on homosexuality online and shared it with them. The more they learned, the more accepting they became.
And now, almost 10 years later, Wu and An live together and run a roadside convenience store next to the Wu family house. Following advancements in gay rights in other countries, the two partners in life and business have been thinking more about cementing their relationship.
I hope to see same-sex marriage become legal in China one day. We'll go get the license right away to enjoy all the rights like married straight couples.
It's going to happen, I bet, next year.
Okay, I'll stop here. Very, very lovely couple indeed. So actually, Jack and Hongwei, when I was checking out Weibo about the coverage on the DOMA being struck down news, I actually saw a lot of coverage. So I don't know, on your end, how do you think the news of DOMA is being received and interpreted in China, Jack?
It's been received. It's doing the rounds on in the online news sphere. So it's on things like local news sources like Sohu and Baidu Beat, and other news sources reported the striking down of the Defense of Marriage Act. I think that it catches the attention of Chinese people in the sense that people see it and they go, "Oh, that's interesting," and then gay people have a tendency to go, "Oh, well, hopefully the same thing will happen in China." But also, it does have limited relevance here. I mean, a legal decision in the Supreme Court in the US is very different from action taken by the Communist Party or by the National People's Congress. And as plenty of activists and sexologists and several kind of go now, it's just not enough of an issue to warrant any kind of really decisive action yet. But I think the news has been received with interest and with excitement by gay people in China, and I think that it does give people all around the world hope that their future might be a little bit brighter.
Right, so a positive message indeed. And Hongwei, I don't know if it's still also the same that you're feeling on the news in China, the social media you're following, as well as people around you. Do you still also feel this positive energy?
Definitely yes. As Jack was mentioning, there are a lot more news covered through online media mostly. You don't see that quite a lot on TV or newspapers in China still, but it's quite a positive energy, passing around from the other side of the world, and people getting more, having more awareness of what's happening in the States. Hopefully, through that event, more and more people will actively start to learn more about being gay in China, and hopefully one day, become more acceptable. Yeah.
Right. Actually, I have some friends asking me back in China, so what does this, no DOMA mean? Actually, very simply put, no DOMA means the extension of certain federal benefits extended, for same-sex couples as well as for heterosexual couples, including, for example, the right to apply for permanent residency for same-sex partner if they're not already a U.S. citizen. Actually, on Weibo's official channel shared an MSN story that the first green card application made for a non-U.S. citizen legally married to his American partner was approved just 3 days after the end of DOMA. So it's very good news. But I know that in China, gay marriage is not legal yet. Jack, I know that you're engaged earlier this year with your partner who is from China. So congratulations. Does it bother you, I would ask, that your relationship is not quite recognized and protected by law in China? Jack? Oh, I must say that Jack is connecting with us via VPN, which is not quite stable. So Jack might be on and off. So at the same time, while we're waiting for Jack to be reconnected, let me ask this question to you, Hongwei, that since we still don't have gay marriage in China now, and do you think that gay people in China can get married, for example, next year already, as the guy in the video interview, hoped?
My personal opinion, to be more realistic, I think probably will take another 5, 10 years or even 20 years to moving forward, like have the equality like in the States. But it's something that is really worth to looking forward to, and for now I can feel it's more and more easier to accept by the public, by people around me as well, even my parents. So I think it's a good positive feedback from the society when things are moving forward, and thanks to the internet as well, it really does to help people to understand more and more about the being gay or gay society in China. So.
Right. Thank you. And Jack, we're happy to see you back. I just explained to folks watching the video that you're connecting via an unstable VPN. So I hope that you're able to hear us okay now.
Yes.
Okay, great, Jack. So we were just talking about gay marriage in the US and gay marriage in China, which we don't have yet. And I was wondering, actually, if you are sort of bothered by the fact that your relationship with your partner is not recognized and protected by law in China.
It would be nice to be protected. It would be nice to have the same rights as any married Chinese couple, but we're very practical people. We don't see it as something that we're entitled to right now, and we don't see it as something that's essential for us. I mean, technically in the UK, don't forget, we won't technically be married. It will technically be a civil partnership.
Mm-hmm.
The gay marriage legislation is still going through the British Parliament. It's passed preliminary hearings, and now it just has to get through a few votes in the Commons and the Lords, and then hopefully the right to marry will be extended to same-sex couples. But right now, it would still just be a civil partnership. It wouldn't be a marriage, which means very little in terms of rights. But in terms of our ceremony, for example, like we're not allowed to call it a wedding. We're not allowed to mention the word marriage. We're not allowed to have words like marriage or wedding or bride in any of the music that we might play during the ceremony. It's in the UK even, it's still a separate but equal doctrine. And in China it's just a flat out not equal, not the same. I mean, I'm sure plenty of your viewers are familiar with the recent publicity stunts, which is what they were, which was people going to register same-sex marriages at local party offices in Beijing and other cities. Same-sex couple would turn up and they'd get rejected, and they'd make sure they had cameras with them, and they'd make sure that they were tweeting all the way.
Right.
And it's a way of getting attention, getting public attention. There was another sort of protest in Shanghai recently where a lesbian couple walked down Nanjing Mall, which is the biggest shopping street in the city, both wearing wedding dresses, and asked people why they couldn't, what do you think of us? Why do you think we can't be married? Why do you think we can't be a couple? And it's great to see, but again, like from my perspective, from my partner's perspective, we're already in a pretty good situation. The most important thing is that we're happy, that we're comfortable, that we're safe, and that our family is supported, and that's what we have right now. And as long as we have that, then we can wait a little bit for a marriage license.
Very happy to hear, indeed. Actually, I think the progress is definitely something that shouldn't be discounted, as both Hongwei and Jack mentioned. And Jack, if I can just ask you to speak a little bit closer to your mic, that would help our audience hear you better. But you're fine. We can hear you. Nevertheless, so actually, we know that in China, there has been a progress in terms of acceptance of homosexuality. In 1997, it was legalized, and it was no longer treated as a mental illness in 2011. And actually, historically, homosexuality was openly documented in literature as well, like the well-known story of Long Yangjun, who was actually from 5th century BC. The China Daily actually published a story about gay literature in Chinese history earlier this year. So with all these, progress and great things, openness, that we see nowadays, does this mean that there is already a general social acceptance of homosexuality in China, Hongwei?
From the old times, my understanding is, being gay is not as difficult as in other places. People tend to treat this thing as if it doesn't bother me, I don't really care. So that's the general attitude since I was little. The most important thing is about being gay, how to being accepted by the people around you, and people matters to you. I mean, especially your family, friends, So definitely it's changing a lot over the years, and I mean, you can see more and more modern medias, having certain things, being gay, that words coming out through the news, TV news, even online. So it's been a lot of progress.
Okay, so Jack, I don't know if you agree that Hongwei thinks that it's pretty much accepted in China. And I know you do a lot of media work, especially on LGBT issues. So what do you think? Jack? We lost Jack again, but no worries. He will come back. He will come back. So Hongwei, let me ask you the question back to you. That in China, we know there are a lot of different regions with different levels of economic development, different access to resources. So do you see an imbalance in China in terms of acceptance of gay people, of homosexuality, despite the progress?
There are my personal experience. It's a lot more easier down in the southern part of China, where I was experienced like people are easier to accept the fact you're gay. Also, probably in that part of the China, people getting more information easier, a lot more information, modern news from internet through other channels, books, TVs. And in terms of being gay in northern part of China, still a big barrier. People tend to be not willing to understand, or even getting a little bit rejecting.
Okay.
Attitude.
Thank you, Hongwei. Yeah, hold that thought for now because Jack is back again and his time is very precious. It seems that every time I ask a question to him, then he gets disconnected by the instability of the VPN connection. So Jack, back to you. We know it's not you, Jack. We know it's not you. We wish there was some less either wall or whatever barrier there. So we were discussing social acceptance of homosexuality in China, and Hongwei thinks that in general nowadays in Chinese society, homosexuality is more or less accepted. But there's a difference between the north and the south of China, where in the south people are more accepting than people in the north. What do you think?
Okay, well, I live in the north. I only ever have lived in the north, so I can't speak for the south of China at all. I can't really speak for the north.
Hello? Oops. Oh, okay. So, Hongwei, why don't we come back to that discussion again, and while waiting for Jack. Yeah, I'm really thankful for Jack keeping trying to connect and all that. So what makes you think that? Let me ask you. Besides the difference between the north and the south, is there a difference in terms of accepting homosexuality in rural areas and in urban areas?
Yes, definitely is. Let me just use a small story to explain that situation in China, like in terms of the urban cities and in the countryside. So a friend's friend actually, recently he came out to his parents. That was end of last year, and he was grew up in a small town, really close to Shanghai, actually southern part of China.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, apart from being upsetting his parents, and it's getting a lot of trouble, and even now it's getting a little bit worse because parents getting a little bit too extreme.
Right.
So yeah, I will say, because the parents not being really having a lot of education and stuff, so they don't read a lot of news about being gay and modern news about what's the lifestyle is in the city life, in the urban city. So there are lack of information because the.
Sorry.
On the other hand, in the city part, in Shanghai, they do have a gay parenting association. Parents, gay parents, they're always gathering together quarterly, having meeting, having chat, about how to make things going forward
Mm-hmm.
for their children,
Right.
Same thing happens in Guangzhou as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's the difference.
Okay, we'll come back to parents later after Jack. So yes. So Jack, what do you think of the? I'm sorry about the echo. If you can speak up a little bit, what do you think of the situation now in terms of social acceptance of homosexuality around you?
I agree with
Hongwei.
people don't care when it's. Yeah, I agree with Hongwei in the sense that people don't care if it's somebody else very much. There is a hardcore, and we mustn't forget there is a hardcore of homophobes in China, and it's easy to forget that they exist. But if you see any story related to homosexuality or queer culture appearing on the Chinese news media, there will always be a raft of comments underneath. Most of them supportive, but there will be a lot of extremely negative, extremely aggressive homophobic comments as well, talking about in very blasé terms about what is natural. So it's important to remember that homophobia, exists in China just as much as homosexuality does. And it's easy to lose sight of that because we can get very starry-eyed about how nice the environment is here for Chinese gays because it's not officially discussed in any capacity.
Right.
So that's important to remember. But I think generally though, people don't care that much if other people are gay. The exception to that is within a family. Parents care very much if their child comes out as gay. I mean, as Hongwei said, and you said as well, throughout Chinese history, there are documented examples of queer culture in literature, in popular humor, in more recently in cinema and in theatre, and even in like one of the great novels of Chinese history, in the Dream of the Red Chamber, the character Jia Baoyu has a gay relationship with an opera star.
Exactly.
The one part of the story that's never included in modern day TV and film adaptations, I might add, but it's very much a part of the story and it's an important part of his character. I mean, I think though that being exclusively gay is quite a new thing. Living a gay lifestyle where you commit monogamously to a single same-sex partner is not historically normal in China, and it isn't normal in the present day either. I think what you might say is that China has always been broadly tolerant of bisexual culture, where men could marry. We are talking about men. History is always about men, unfortunately. Where men could marry a woman or several women and have children with those women, and as long as they did that, they were free in their own time to go off and have as many sexual encounters with men as they wanted. And in some areas, even that was celebrated. Like the Han Dynasty, for example. There are plenty of documented cases of Han Dynasty emperors, and as far as we know, these are accurate depictions. It could be that they have been tampered with in the historical record, but who had gay lovers, and it's the equivalent of gay concubine. This is recorded historically, and it wasn't unusual for men to frequent male brothels, and there's a long tradition of male prostitution in China. So that was fine, but committing monogamously to a same-sex partner, and even worse, not having children, I think is not acceptable to a lot of to most Chinese parents. You have to be fairly open-minded and liberal to accept the concept that they might not have grandchildren. So I think it's really important to understand that while there's no problem really in modern Chinese society in terms of the law, in terms of ways of being with your friends or with your colleagues or something like that, if you're gay, although a lot of Chinese people choose to conceal their sexuality from their colleagues for fear of discrimination in the workplace. The main problem is family. And it's this single Confucian dogma. Everything else has been discarded from Confucius, but the one thing that everyone has to do, which is continue the family line. And I think that's one of the main reasons that a lot of gay people in China find themselves trapped in heterosexual marriages.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, so what's different, I think, when it comes to gay acceptance in China, different from, Western societies, is that the barrier, if you will, of, this acceptance is not quite from religious values, religions, but rather this...
It's not at all related to religion, no.
Right. So it's entirely this, what I see as, the Confucianism, Confucianist values that's shared actually in China, South Korea, and a lot of East Asian countries and societies, that you have to carry on the family bloodline, you have to get married, even if you're gay, if you marry a gay man, if you marry a woman, have kids, you're fine, as Jack just said. But what I see that...
Don't forget as well that in China you also have the one-child policy that means that families will have one child, which means that if that child ends up being gay, they can't place their hopes on a brother or sister. It means that no grandchildren. It means the family line ends. So the stakes are, while the Confucian continuing the family line idea is a common theme in throughout Asian culture, and all queer Asian people have to deal with this issue. The one-child policy complicates things even further in China by making one child the entire hope and dream of a whole family.
Hongwei was laughing when you mentioned the one-child policy. So how do you deal with it, Hongwei? And what is your coming out story to your parents?
I came out to my parents in 2009, and that was after a tragedy breaking up. I was carrying too much sadness, and I decided maybe it's time to share my personal life with my parents, But surprisingly, my mom was saying to me that night, that she been suspicious for a long time, might be gay. We openly talked about it, and that night she was fine. Even my father was fine. And throughout that year, surprisingly, my father is more accepting than my mom, actually. And then slowly I discovered that few things that bothers my mom. One is, worrying me being single all my life. Who's going to look after me? That's one thing. And second thing is they probably get worried about when they're getting old, who's going to look after them, because when my grandparents getting old, my father got my mom, a wife to look after the parents and stuff. But on the other hand, I'm being single and I might, not be in my hometown for the whole life. And they're being worried who's going to look after them. But as long as slowly, telling them from time to time, everything's going to be fine, and what's the solution for those issues. So she's becoming more accepting. And on the other hand, I'm buying a lot of books about being gay parenting and stuff in China for my mom to read. So it's a lot easier. About my father, we don't talk about that much, but he's more relaxed. Of course, from time to time when he's getting a little bit drunk or tipsy, he will mentioning a bit. But in general, he's quite happy with things in general. Seeing I'm doing well in the big city. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you for sharing your story. I think to me, although we have different cultures and traditions around the world in different countries, but a lot of stories that I've heard are amazingly the same, that given it time, family will accept who you are and celebrate your identity with you. And then I'm happy that we're seeing that more and more in China now, as proved by Hongwei's own story as well. That said, we still have a lot of gay people and their parents lacking resources of support to help them, go through this phase of acceptance. And more sadly to me, that still more than 10 million Chinese gay men are forced into this fake marriages with women, and ending up hurting themselves as well as the women they marry, because they don't get to enjoy or receive the benefits or rights the women are entitled to. They're called the tongqi, or gay wives in English. And so there's a whole bunch of issues at play here. So I don't think the LGBT rights, gay rights, is only a gay issue in China or anywhere, because it affects everyone in the society. So it's a much broader issue than a gay issue, and it needs to definitely be addressed sooner than later in China. And it needs to, although as Jack said, the law doesn't mess with gay people anymore, but the law doesn't support LGBT rights either. So I guess this is the direction where LGBT communities and actually everyone should, in my opinion, push in China right now. Well, that said, I know that there are a lot of progresses, and we have many support resources in place already in China. So I don't know, to you guys, Jack, let me start with you then. So what are the resources or what are the support systems in place there already in China to help gay people come out, their parents, and help them build their communities and even fight for their rights?
Well, these resources are very limited right now. A major problem facing, say, NGOs and activist groups from entering China is the government.
Sorry, Jack is breaking up again. So I guess Jack has to reconnect. But Hongwei, according to you, what do you see around you that could be of support? And especially we know that there's a Shanghai Pride Festival going on every month, and I know that you participated in it. So it seems that there are a lot of awareness raised already, and more to come.
Every year in Shanghai there's a gay pride, which is really amazing and outstanding. I've been there once a couple of years ago with a friend, and it's a whole week thing. Unlike in the States, you have a big parade walking on the street and during the day, but they do have an opening party, and during the party there are a lot of shows and some charity stuff as well, and also throughout the week they're having movie screening, they have exhibitions, art exhibitions. By the end of the week, they will have usually they have a ending party, so ends up Sunday barbecue or even pool party. So
sounds very American, by the way.
Yeah, it definitely is. It does help to giving people heads up, and see what's going on. And it's not like unlike other traditional opinion about being gay, being gay in general, that always about, having sex around and stuff. It's more about socially, like straight people, you're being social and you're celebrating certain things, and it's just being happy.
Just to build a community, to to know each other and support each other. I think that's truly great. But you said they are not holding any parades. They don't want to, or they cannot.
I think it's a matter of they cannot. It might be a little bit too much for the government to support in that part. They were probably afraid that certain conflicts will be caused.
Right.
So that's the main issue. But in Shanghai, still is quite a big step, doing such thing like that.
Right.
But on the other hand, in Beijing, I never seen that thing happen. As my personal, what I heard before,
right.
Last month, I think last month or 2 months ago, there was supposed to be a LGBT ball, evening ball or one year anniversary ball was supposed to be held, and it was sponsored by the quite a few embassies, but then by last minute it was shut down. So
because
it's a big shame. Well, I don't know the exact reason, but from what I heard is the government since the whole ball is sponsored by the embassy, so that's why they have to shut it down.
Okay, so Jack, back to where we were. You mentioned the limited resources of support. I was just chatting with Hongwei about the Shanghai Gay Pride as a way to build a community around us. So besides that, according to you, what other resources are out there? And especially you work in the media, and then your media might be something that's already also doing a lot of things, right?
Yeah, in terms of resources, you've got to abide by the Chinese law. So China's policy does have a policy on LGBT rights, and the policy is called the Three Don'ts. Stand for: they don't promote, don't condemn, don't acknowledge.
Okay.
So you can't support gay people, you can't abuse gay people, and you can't acknowledge gay people exist. That's the official government stance on gay issues right now, and that's been the same for 20 years. So that limits the access that NGOs can have to China. Now, we do have organizations like PFLAG, Parents for Lesbian and Gay Youth, who are quite active in Beijing, the LGBT Center. The LGBT Center do a lot of outreach, but at every turn they face discrimination and prejudice. They've been evicted from their premises twice in the last few years since they got set up. And even just doing something as simple as opening a stall, for example, at a beer festival that happened recently, they ran into difficulties with the organisers. It was ultimately sorted out and wasn't as big a problem as it had been made out to be, but still it was the fact that they were an LGBT group and certain people in the media began to talk about them as if they were activists. And while there are very militant LGBT organisations across the world, in China, LGBT organisations who know what they're doing will not try and be activists. For the simple reason that if you try and be an activist in China, you get shut down, you get arrested, you'll only get into trouble. Any foreign organisation that's operating through you will be condemned and not allowed to return to China, and so there's a lot at stake. I believe, though, that the best weapon that gay people have, the best weapon that gay, lesbian, transgender, and bisexual people have in China is still coming out. I think that's the fundamental responsibility of queer people across the world. As Harvey Milk said, the more of us are out, the more people will know a gay person, and the less likely we are to face prejudice. I truly believe that, for example, Andy, when you were mentioning the Fengqi, there are lots of organisations that have been set up to support Fengqi, like helplines, counselling services, especially in big cities. In that situation, I don't think it's the gay men we should be pitying. I don't think it's the gay men who should see as being forced into these lovers' marriages so much as these women who are being lured into marriages on false pretenses. The really pitiable people in Fengqi relationships are the wives, because in China, women still have to abide by a sexual.
Oops! It seems that we lost him again, but he was. Yeah.
For example,
Jack, I'm sorry, your voice is breaking up again, but it was very good to hear from you that there are a lot of organizations supporting Tongqi, and I think it's also a very great point that there need to be more and more gay people coming out to show people that we're there, and to let people know that gay people are normal and actually outstanding people. As you can see, there are a lot of politicians and celebrities and a lot of successful people in all walks of life. That just as what Harvey Milk said, that more and like all of gay people should come out. And that's the ultimate weapon that Jack mentioned. But in terms of media, I was also thinking maybe Jack and Hongwei have some very profound but brief observations about the progress in terms of media's acceptance of homosexuality and LGBT people, since we're running a little bit out of time. So I hope that the answers can be brief. Because I remember when I left China for the US 4 years ago, I didn't see much coverage of gay people in mass media, representation of gay characters in popular culture, at least not in a positive light. Jack, now I'm talking about media and LGBT acceptance. So I was saying that 4 years ago when I left China, there was not a lot of coverage of gay people. What there was, it was usually negative or funny characters. Today, I'm sort of amazed at how much has progressed. You have China's media, especially English language ones, openly discussing LGBT-related issues like China Daily, which I just mentioned. You have more and more gay celebrities, or at least suspected ones. And people are talking about, for example, Li Hongwang and Li Yundi, a singer and a pianist. They're the rumor, but people are talking about it in a sense that it's fashion, it's trendy. So lots of image being, I think, picking up in popular culture as well. So do you feel that there's a more awareness and support for LGBT communities nowadays, and media, including social media, is playing a very, very significant role? And if so, in what way? And please keep your answers brief. Hongwei.
Sorry. Over the years, internet does help pushing things a bit more in the positive side, and especially when Weibo came out a few years ago, and you see more and more things coming out in a good way, talking about being gay in general. Also, you will see a lot more movies translated. Not legally, published online and passing around on Weibo on Youku, which is a Chinese version of YouTube.
Can you give us an example? What kind of movie?
There's an American movie called Child.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, and there are a lot more. For example, the famous one, "I Love You, Philip Morris," which I recently watched.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic performances.
So you see a lot more movies like that happening. Also, there are some documentaries and movies directed by Chinese directors. So the internet and the Chinese Twitter thing does help a lot to pushing things in the right side,
right,
the correct side. Yeah.
The Chinese Twitter thing Hongwei mentioned is Sina Weibo, which is literally meaning microblogging. And actually, I remembered when Anderson Cooper came out, and it kind of raised a lot of discussions in China on Weibo as well. A lot of people were actually, according to a report, rattled by his coming out. And there were people who were encouraged, and more people were discussing his coming out, then linking it to Chinese people coming out and how to raise awareness for LGBT communities in China. So that you can see that China nowadays, as it engages more and more closely with the international communities, and with the advancement of technology reflected by social media and the internet growth, there is really no way for Chinese people not to be getting information or resources through all kinds of digital ways, and there's no way for them not to be able to be well informed and then unite and then step up to fight for their rights. So I think in this case, the media and social media are playing a very helpful and very critical role in promoting LGBT rights. And oh, Jack, welcome back. Can you hear us? Jack? Okay. Jack? Okay, yeah, your voice is still a little bit breaking up, but I hope you can stay with us as we're running toward the end of this discussion. I really would like to look ahead a little bit, especially nowadays. Now that China is being led by a new group of leaders, and they are touting this Chinese dream. And what I see, Chinese dream is actually the dream of the pursuit of happiness, which is actually no different from, say, the American dream in this sense, because everyone in China or in America, they have the right, and they want to legitimately improve their livelihoods, improve their lives, and this is how I see how I interpret the Chinese dream. And the dream is and should be dreamt and realized by all people, not only a group of people in China. So this will include the LGBT communities as well, and that this has to be including them. As Hillary Clinton said, gay rights are human rights, and I think this this belief is also intrinsic, although it's not very explicitly explained nowadays. But I think this is also part of the Chinese dream. So looking ahead, let me ask you, what do you think will it take in terms of political, social, and human development to make China more inclusive of diverse voices and identities, and to sort of realize this shared Chinese dream? Jack.
very simply an end to censorship of the internet and an end to censorship of media.
Okay, and Hongwei.
It's a big question. Well, I think certain education when people are younger generation, that's the good start. That will be the good start. Helping people to have more understanding since they're little, the equality of all human race.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
So education is the most important part.
Right. And do you think? Let me follow up with this question. Do you think the China dream is also a gay China dream?
That's it. That's it.
I heard Jack said yes.
50-50.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Yeah. I mean, it's not only about have certain groups human rights. I mean, in China there are a lot more problems. You got involved. So gay rights is just only one part.
Mm-hmm.
There are parts like, for example, the basic one, what we are encountering now, the internet freedom. So
right.
So yeah.
Right. So that's actually what Jack was mentioning as well, and I definitely I think I agree with you guys that a more vibrant civil society and more awareness and support for LGBT rights will come upon a more open information system and easier access to information in China. And with that, let's hope that the China dream will be inclusive and will benefit all, including the gay people in China. And we do hope that the LGBT people in China they're happy living in China now, but they will be even happier with the time to come. And one day, everyone in China and around the world will be able to say, as the famous gay mayor of Berlin, Klaus Uvereit used to say, "I am gay, and that is absolutely okay." And thank you very much, Hongwei and Jack, for being on China Open Mic. Thank you very much for your insight, and I wish you a very happy weekend. Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching as well. And please carry on the conversation with us by following us on Twitter. Our handle is China Open Mic, and visit our website chinaopenmic.com. And again, I am Andy Liu, and thank you for watching China Open Mic Hangout. See you next time. Bye bye.